This is Radio Today, broadcasting in Johannesburg on 1485 AM and nationally on DSTV audio channel 869.
Conversations with Niki is brought to you by studyapps.co.za, South Africa's leading education app for tablets. Well, welcome to Conversations with Niki. I'm Niki Seberini, delighted to be with you. Thank you so much for tuning in. And remember that all the shows are podcasts, so you can just visit the website Conversations with Niki, one word, and Niki spelled N-I-K-I. And any of the shows that you've missed in the past, or if you have to leave this conversation at some point, you will be able to listen to that podcast. I do also tweet the podcast, so you can follow me on Twitter. And my Twitter handle is @Seberini, or you can go to my Facebook page, which is Niki Seberini Talk Show Host. Everything is there. So I hope you're going to sit back, relax, and get ready for a fantastic show, because today we're going to be talking about something that you respond to, really. It's an action. You respond to an experience, an emotion. You see something, you hear something, and it makes you feel so good. So good that you really should be doing it a lot more often. And, well, you can take your mind wherever you want to take it, but I'm talking about something very, very simple, and that is laughter. And the world needs more laughter. I need more laughter. In fact, my husband said something to me just the other day, and I responded irrationally to what he said, and he said, "But I'm only joking." And that's when I realized that I seem to be suffering from a sense of humor failure. I don't know if it's age. I don't know if it's just the world that we live in. I don't know if it's that there's tremendous amount of pressure all the time. But I need more laughter in my life. And I don't know if that's the way you feel as well. So the show was really born out of a blog that I read. Professor Pierre de Vos wrote a blog, and it was titled, "When is a Joke Not a Joke?" And it's all about those who tell the jokes, and it's all about those who read or receive or respond to the jokes, and asking the question about, humor and what we really find funny. Now, I wanted to chat to the professor, but unfortunately we just couldn't coordinate the right times and get to talk. So I decided to invite into the studio two of, I think, South Africans, one of twos of threes of hundreds, South Africa's funniest comedians into the studio to talk about it. Thanks, Nick. And that is Nik Rabinowitz and John Vlismas. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Did I get out of that one? No.
Not really.
No.
Twos of ones of hundreds of
ones.
I don't know what that even means.
You know what it is? It's mathematics. It was never my strong point. As soon as I threw a number in, I knew I was a goner.
I don't know if it's fractions or statistics. I'm not sure which.
I think it's
branch.
more like, I don't think it's maths at all. It's what do you call that subject of removing feet from mouths?
Feminism.
Yes.
No.
That's what it is.
So, I think we need to start off seriously.
Yes.
Right,
because this did come out of a pretty serious blog, and you've both read it. When is a joke not a joke? Now, I just wanted to read a part of it, and it says, because Pierre de Vos, first of all, attended this this production that he saw about the Holocaust, and there was a lot of laughter in this production, but people felt very guilty about the laughter, because what are you laughing at? And he questioned the whole modus and the action around laughter and what makes things funny, and then of course in response to articles. But he says here, humor, or what is presented as humor, can sometimes be used by the economically, culturally and socially dominant as a vehicle to endorse harmful stereotypes and to promote prejudices, often invisible to them, about groups who are less powerful and influential in our culture. It can also be used to assert control over what we may and may not think and say. And I just think it is so relevant in South Africa, because we have an industry that is growing rapidly. And you know what? South Africans want to laugh. They want to forget. They want to let the endorphins rush. They want to have a good time. But at whose expense, I suppose, is the question we need to ask. So, John, what do you think? I mean, you read that blog.
Yeah, I mean, I read it anyway because obviously it interests me. I think he's a very smart guy, and I think legally he is a luminary, and often he shines light on things that confuse the rest of us. It's interesting that he's used an example of the play he watched. Just incidentally, in the blog, the Holocaust example he praised. What he actually took fault with or issue with was the sort of derogatory reference to women who work in a domestic environment. So it's interesting that he's actually answered his own question, because at the heart of suffering is where you find great humor. So in order to use the Holocaust as a staging area for a display of the human spirit shining brightly, making humor in a dark place, kind of undermines what he's saying. So I think it's all about context. If you've got fat white privileged people standing around a braai making jokes about black people, I absolutely 100% agree with him. If you've got privileged corporate males being derogatory about minors, I absolutely agree. However, we mustn't write off the fact that certain great suffering is the perfect staging area for humor, because it displays the human spirit in such an amazing light. And that's probably the most serious thing I've ever said. So I think you should ask Nick.
That was so serious.
He's quite funny.
Nick's just kept quiet.
Well, John is in our circles known as the professor of comedy. And
the intellectual.
Couldn't have the other professor.
He's known
here.
as the intellectual.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Well, he's a very. I mean, look, Conrad Koch
Very
does
fun.
sort of hold the mantle. But John is the associate professor.
I don't have the seat, but he's got a puppet.
Yeah, he's got the puppets.
But you guys get away
I've
with
got
murder.
my mother-in-law. I don't need.
Which is a close second.
It's a very close second.
I have
I
to
mean,
say.
talk about the Holocaust. I was just after the Pope was what you call. What do you say when the Pope is installed?
Arraigned. No.
But they had that week of
Reinstated. No, he wasn't
in the
reinstated.
Vatican
A new
yes.
one was put in.
Yes, but they had to wait. The faithful were gathered there, and they had to wait. And every day the chimneys, the smoke was grey,
The
and then they had to
conclave.
wait for the conclave. That's
Yes,
it, the
the
conclave.
conclave.
And they had to wait for the white, the white smoke.
Smoke. Yeah, I think that's it.
And I mentioned that as Jews we don't like to wait for any smoke coming out of any chimneys. And my mother-in-law said I shouldn't use that reference. Too
So what do
soon.
you think, John?
Too soon. No, but I mean, I think I know.
I think it's a very
It's all about
interesting
your intention
question.
and your
The context
if
comes
you
in again.
constantly treat something as a no-go area, and you have it's off bounds and all of that, you've limited that event. It can never be taken away. However, its ability to contribute towards a positive change is very important, I think. So when I hear people like Nick talk about that, I know Nick, I know what his whole vibe is. I don't think that there's any malice in that. In fact, what it is you are saying we can never change the past. However, we can use it as a reference point for how brightly humanity can shine. So it's not as simple as saying, making a crude joke for a cheap laugh. I agree with that. Like, I think the prof is absolutely right. And I think there are people in a position of education and enlightenment who should serve to protect the people who can't defend themselves, and make sure that as a society we're always aware of our intentions. But his blog made me reflect on why I do things rather than tell me what I should and shouldn't do. And I think that's what I started off quite sort of defensive when I read it, and then I realized I was actually proving his point. Whereas I came around and I realized that there's room for both viewpoints in a rounded view,
And John, what about it's who's telling the joke? It's who's making the funny out of the situation. So Nick, you call yourself the Jewish causer comedian. So you talking about the smoke coming out of a chimney and your connection to the Holocaust. I mean, you talk about members of families who perished in the Holocaust. Does that give you greater right to be able to joke about something like that? So, for example, John, if you had to bring that up, would it be inappropriate, you being Greek and not having that connection to that? Or is this getting just a bit too heavy?
No, I think it would be out of place if I spoke from a point where I didn't really have a personal reference. I don't know how closely connected young people are to the past. It's difficult to say. It's like a young black person discussing, the experiences of, the very first ANC members. I wonder. I don't know. Does it entitle us, or is it just a very thin connection that allows?
I don't think it's a right or wrong. I don't think it's a particular answer either. Nick?
I mean, for the example I used just now, I thought it was innocuous. And then when my mother-in-law, I joke about her, but she did lose all of her aunts and uncles, like 7 of them, and their families in the Holocaust. And for her, it was an emotional. She had an emotional reaction to it. So it did make me think, because I think you mentioned that earlier. Sometimes we rethink and relook at what we're saying and the impact that it might have, and how it might be interpreted. not to say we should censor ourselves, but sometimes when you're in
Yeah.
PE and you're thinking of that Reeva Steenkamp joke, maybe you don't. Maybe
You
you
don't go there.
You don't
You
go
just-
there. You just go halfway.
You go
halfway.
halfway and then you pull out. It was I was actually present at that particular. In fact, Nick's referring to one of my jokes, and it's a good example because just before the show, I was reminded that was actually where Reeva Steenkamp came from, and those are her people. And I made a decision that I would rather not go to PE and then be hurtful, possibly, in order to prove a point. The joke's actually not about her, but it's a point that I have, and it became less important to prove my point than to be respectful of where I was. So, I mean, I think it's very hard to have a
It's
formula.
being conscious. It's actually being conscious. It's not just going out there and saying whatever you want to say.
Yeah, and I did not do it because I'm this super genius. Someone said to me, have you thought about that? And I thought, I actually haven't. It was going so well. It's almost like you're tickling people and then you suddenly poke them with a pin. So
Yeah,
it was
I
our
hear
first
you.
visit there. And I think before, I have a particular way of, going about comedy, and every comic does. And my way is quite provocative, and I do poke nerves and stuff. But I think, to go to a funeral and then put your drink on the deceased's forehead, it's maybe not that cool,
I said earlier, you guys get away with a lot. I interviewed David Bullard not so long ago. He's fantastic.
Is he?
Fantastic.
Really?
No, he really is, John. And I think that a lot of the stuff that he writes about, we know that he was fired. We spoke about the firing from the Sunday Times.
It's the
because of his
conspiracy to
column.
end his career of whining.
So anyway, but the point is, what I thought about, and I thought about Zapiro as well. Zapiro, fantastic, and the cartoons and so thought-provoking. We laugh and we chuckle. And our very own president took him to court, wanted to sue him for it.
Sure.
David Bullard, whether you enjoy his articles, his columns or not, very much tongue-in-cheek and thought-provoking and getting you to think about certain issues, whether you're comfortable or uncomfortable with what he's saying.
Yeah.
But you comedians seem to have an ability to say whatever it is you want to say and get away with it. The most you'll get is criticism. The most you'll get is someone booing you.
Or death threats.
Depending
Or
where you
perhaps,
live,
but you know what I'm saying? There's a great sense of freedom and the ability to stand up and the permission to stand up and say it like it is.
Yeah.
Well, there's that expression that it's only offensive when it's not funny. And perhaps that is how we get away with things. It's interesting, there's a Zapiro. There was the one particular cartoon after the spear, which was, I don't remember the exact thing, but it was a talking penis.
Right.
And that actually, surprise, people were quite upset. And Jonathan actually said, he actually admitted that it lacked thought. He actually said it was actually for something else. He put together, it was last minute, and he actually owned the fact that perhaps it wasn't appropriate. It didn't actually. It's like sometimes when you look at the joke, is the joke making fun of that, what you were talking about earlier, the lower status individual, or is the joke funny in itself?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I've started to sort of think about a bit more.
And I think it's very subjective, though, because we're all coming, with our little worlds and our little ideas and hurts and whatever it is. So we're all going to respond differently.
Yeah. I've always thought that the court jester is the closest one to the king. And it's only funny for everyone when he makes fun of the king, who's the inflated figure. So he's the great deflator. If you picked on the villagers, I don't know how great a court jester you'd be.
That's very interesting.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I've never heard of the village jester. That's the village idiot. That's a different job description. But the court jester really makes fun of the king. And there's a great theory that with primates, whenever there's danger, the troop will move away, but there'll always be one who'll move a little bit towards the danger, and the others will start chattering with this nervous excitement. And there's a theory that's where laughter began, was the chattering of the primates as they recognize that thrill of the danger of the other one. If you think about it, that's kind of what a comedian does. You kind of wander to the front, take on the focal point, and then you start poking the ribs of the inflated figures. I think comedy should be deflating. It shouldn't be attacking the weak.
Did I not say he was the professor?
He's the professor. I wish we could slow down. Don't you wish we could press pause and just rewind and
I would
re-listen
like
to what he just said?
Put it as a quote on my wall.
I was thinking about this laughter thing, and I was just thinking about I mean, what makes you laugh? I'd love to know what makes you laugh. And why is it that when someone walks into a pole, for example, and misses a step and goes flying down the step, why is it that we find that funny? And some of us will laugh out loud because it's so hysterical, and others will turn away and maybe laugh inwardly but still find it funny. What is it about that that is...
I agree. I think there's nothing funnier than watching those ridiculous, like the one now.
Those
with
videos.
Jimmy Kimmel made the one about the girl twerking upside down on the door.
Oh, yes. And she
one?
sets herself on
It
fire.
was all staged, but it was one of the funniest things ever. She's twerking on a handstand. She gets carried away. She ends up twerking on a handstand against the door. I mean, it's a bit staged when you think about it. Someone opens the door. She falls over onto a table where there's a candle. The candle hits her leg. Before you know it, she's on fire.
Oh, no.
And the friend runs away. It's very funny. But it was all staged, as it turned out. I think we all
really
felt better about ourselves as humans.
Do you remember that clip with the, he was at the time the Deputy Minister of Finance. No, sorry, he is now. At the time, he was the chairman of something else.
And he fell to
interview on the SABC, and his chair went,
yes.
And he carried on talking. And then it just collapsed completely, and he fell underneath.
I know.
the counter.
And we laughed and laughed
amazing.
and laughed. So did you laugh guiltily, or did you
No.
laugh full-heartedly and love it?
Absolutely.
I felt
John
guilty,
Cleese
I have
said,
to
nothing
say.
is truly funny unless it has a mean spirit. And
Unless it has a mean
yeah,
spirit.
I never quite understood what he said until recently when I saw him at the theatre and he spoke about offensive, dark, and controversial humour. And I was so glad because finally I felt like someone really, I think he might be my patron saint because he so carefully explained why dark humour is important. And that goes back to this thing of, you know, let's say something terrible like the Holocaust or, you know, when something so bad happens, there are two options. The one is that you lie down and die, and you actually die. Or, you know, I always say to my daughter, if you're afraid of the dark, you must laugh in the dark, because the darkness is terrified when someone is that brave to just laugh at it, and it doesn't know what's inside it. Like, so I just think that humans, you know, John Cleese said that when they did Monty Python, a lot of what they did was quite dark and controversial, a lot of religious stuff, a lot of, but those are the things we should be poking fun at, because they're supposed to be strong. So if your religion collapses simply because I make a few comments as a mortal, flawed, sinning human being, well, how strong was it in the first place? And where's your faith? You know, you attack me as being a sort of a tattooed, earring sort of man who's criticized your religion, but by your own judgment, I don't actually count, because I'm not even going to be around when you're all in heaven. So why is my opinion so important to you that it upsets you so? And I think often what happens is humor becomes the poster child for everything that's wrong. Oh, they made jokes. Well, we're humans. It's one of the highest forms of, you know, elevation you can. It's a great practice. So it's just interesting. And I think that even, you know, the famous fart joke, you know, everyone goes, oh, it's the lowest common. Yeah, but it is funny. I don't know why it's funny that human beings have this waste product and the way of getting rid of it is so ridiculously funny. But I think it's because we're such a evolved life form. To do something so crude is incredibly funny because it's deflating, and it joins us all. We all,
there's a connection.
Somehow we all have a... There, you just put your hand up, see? And Solomon just admitted that was me. And then he grabbed the aircon remote.
Oh,
My
John.
son's 3, and he's just started telling his first jokes. And it's interesting to see that we don't really progress much
From 3.
that age, because he walked into my office and he likes me to take him to school in the morning. He said, "Dad, are you taking me to school?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Do you like it when I take you to school?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Why do you like it when I take you to school?" And he said, "Because your bum's bigger than your pee-pee." She thought it was hilarious.
Is he available to write? Is he?
Not yet.
I got
can
a
use
new
an
show.
iPad, though.
I got a new show coming. I'm looking for a writer. We'll work for like
No
part
pressure,
one.
hey? No pressure. So, Nick, I mean, let's talk about you. Cape Town, born and bred.
It's not something we like to
married,
admit
2
these days. You know,
kids.
Conrad's from Cape Town. He was telling
No
me, but
way.
he doesn't. Nobody knows.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
It's a terrible secret.
No,
I knew
it's a-
Chester
it's a-
was. I just didn't know
It's
Conrad
an
was.
affliction to admit.
Really?
Yeah, it really does. Your credential, your what's the word? Cred. Your cred, I think, is greatly diminished.
If you're not as hardcore
Yeah.
if you say you're from Cape Town.
And the water's
Because we're
cold.
Joburg, born
John
and
won't
bred.
visit me.
The water's
We
very
go
cold for
surfing in other
It's
cities.
not. We have to meet
We
in
want to
other
talk
more
about
temperate climates.
Both
Yeah.
of you surfing.
Yeah, we both
because I
surf.
know you were scuba, and I know that you found scuba at quite a
Yeah.
pivotal point in your life. I mean,
Absolutely,
it was a turning point. You were in
Yeah.
rehab,
Yeah.
painting and scuba.
Yeah. So I mean, managing my anxiety because I'd chemically altered my composition
underwater
almost permanently. Yeah,
okay.
So I got it back. But yeah, it was very cool for me. But I started surfing and I found out the Nik surfed. So now whenever we're in PE now, we arrange a quick sneak out before the show.
But aren't there big sharks in PE?
We didn't see any.
We didn't see any. No.
Great whites around there. No, you didn't.
Far out that day.
We were quite far out.
Just the two of you.
No, we had
a surfing guide. With us, he was very unperturbed by the level of.
Jason Afrikaans.
Jason has got a German background.
A German background. Yeah.
So do you? I mean, I know Nick. You've been surfing for a while. John, when did you take up surfing?
No, only recently. I'm very new and I'm terrible at it.
Do you have your own surfboard, or are you still hiring at this stage?
I'm obsessive. So I did research and then I found Spider Murphy, who's a very world famous shaper who lives in Durban. He's like in his 60s and he's a legend. So I immediately got hold of Spider and then I had to go and visit him.
And did he make a board specially for you?
He's made 4.
And what do they look like?
They're 2 long boards, which are very good for really bad surfers. Yeah. But you just stand on them and they just go. But it's very hard to turn. And then a short board, which I'm starting to ride, but now when I catch a wave, I get such a surprise, I fall off immediately.
I can just imagine the two of you out at sea. I mean, did you surf? Did you actually?
We hung out.
Did you catch a few waves?
It's called the shoulder of the wave quite a lot, and we sort of wondered why we weren't getting any wave. We knew why, because we didn't really want to go into the impact zone, but we were happy. We philosophized about various things and we discussed other things, and eventually I got one wave, I think.
Yeah, Nick actually did get a wave.
Did he? Did he stay up, or did he?
No, he rode the wave properly.
He
had a couple of bits and pieces, but then he had a proper wave. Yeah. I didn't have one. I didn't get one this whole time.
I wouldn't be able to stand on a board. I just wouldn't be able to balance.
No, you would.
You would.
Would I?
Basically, you start on the sand, and they get you to stand up, and then
balance there.
Okay.
So even if you didn't, but that's how you start, and then you go out. And
you could catch a dune.
You catch a dune first and foremost. Okay, and then you move to the sea.
Yeah.
Shallow end, and
not really. Not too shallow, because otherwise it's a bit tricky with the water being gone and the sand
breaking on. I see. Okay, you see, I haven't thought about this too much.
No, but it's okay. Come with us.
Okay, I'm too scared of sharks, so really? I don't know if I'd be out there.
They don't often bite people.
Well, ANN7, they're actually having a surfing day because they're going to book the Wali of the Vevs every year now. On the wedding anniversary, and then you can go there and you can catch like a 3-footer.
The Wali of the Vevs.
So Nick, is that how you
were dropping Atul, stop dropping in on me. I will take you out with my bodyguards.
Get off my wave.
Kababanga.
The helicopter landing on the beach there,
So is that how you relax? Is that how you disconnect from the world?
Yeah,
or the other ways? Because I mean, you're a farm boy, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about Cape Town, but you are from the farm.
Yeah, we didn't really farm anything though.
I was going to ask, was there anything in particular that you did?
I remember there being strawberries. I used to go and steal strawberries.
Oh, nice.
And there were horses. There were quite horsey people there. Where's this thing broadcast? I've just got to be careful what I say.
All over. Careful.
Bamba Mashwa called Nick, which is a Xhosa expression meaning hold your horses. And literally we used to have horses for my kids' parties and things like that. And then I haven't ridden a horse, actually. I don't think I've ridden a horse.
Really?
Since I was about 10. But it was fun. And my dad was a potter, so I grew up with pots. And his pottery studio was through the forest.
What an upbringing. You're so lucky.
I went
Do you
to
know
Waldorf
that?
school, so we used to crochet lanterns.
He's Waldorf.
Crochet lanterns.
We can put,
and walk through the forest at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Wow, was that homework?
Dance around the maypole.
That was homework.
Yeah, it was.
What an upbringing. You're very lucky.
I was very lucky. Yeah.
Well, we're going to find out about John's upbringing in a moment.
Oh, no.
But if you have just tuned in, welcome. It's Conversations with Niki. I'm Niki Seberini. And I have John Vlismas and Nik Rabinowitz in the studio. We're talking about laughing, South Africa. Do South Africans have a good sense of humour? Will be a question we'll ask in just a moment. Now, you know that Conversations with Niki is brought to you by Study Apps. And statistics show that if students do not review what they've learned, they're going to forget 70% within an hour and 84% within 48 hours. So the key to effective long-term learning is testing, and Study Apps is all about testing. They're market leaders. You download this app onto your iPad or onto your tablet, and it just helps tremendously. So go to the website to find out more, studyapps.co.za. And also, I didn't welcome our syndication partners at the beginning of the show, so I'd like to just welcome Eldo's FM and Chai FM, Kawi FM in Port Alfred, West Coast FM in Namibia, 90.3 MC in Plet, Neisner FM, Wild Coast FM FM in East London and Bay FM in PE. Welcome, welcome. Great to have you on board as well. So, John, your upbringing,
Yes.
I mean, you're Greek.
Well, my dad's Greek, but not very. He never taught me how to speak the language.
And Greek food?
He did have a cafe.
Greek food?
Oh, no, I can
Throwing
speak Greek
plates.
food. That I can
You
speak.
can speak.
Oh,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
We don't break plates, not real Greeks. Real Greeks make plates for tourists to
break and
Real
spend
Greeks
a lot
will
of
never
money.
break a
Okay.
plate, ever. Like, they don't drink ouzo either. No one drinks that rubbish. It's for tourists.
And
They
the
drink
dance,
whiskey.
that
The dance, that's in the
clicking the
movie. They don't
fingers,
do that. They
lifting
just,
the knees
no,
up
no,
high.
they lie around
No.
in vests and women feed them. There's no dancing.
Is that
It's
it?
not- well, occasionally at a wedding someone gets drunk and then they burn whiskey and they'll do a dance, but it's all for tourists. There's no...
Is it really?
It's not real.
Oh,
It's not
I'm
real.
so disappointed.
I know. It's like
love the
maths.
show,
We didn't
though.
really invent maths. We stole it from the Arabs. You know that. We stole calculus and things from the Arabs. I know. Sorry.
You shouldn't be telling anybody.
I'm so sorry, but that's the truth.
It's
and
out.
then we used the Crusades to try and kill them all. We didn't want to tell anyone about the calculus. So...
It's out, John. So you weren't really. So you can't do any of those things. So
No,
where?
not
I
really.
mean, did
I
you?
have no culture. That's why I'm kind of so rude about everyone else's. My mum's Afrikaans. In fact, she's a direct descendant of Piet Retief. So
How did you find that out? I don't know.
I
Did
had
you
quite
really?
a proud and Omar, who was quite proud of the fact, and she used to think it was good for us to be prominent Afrikaans stock. As it turns out, nothing could have been worse. In fact, I really should have aimed for a coloured child. So I come from quite a tight family, and we all get on really well, actually. A brother and a sister.
So the sense of humour. I mean, did you laugh around the dinner table? Was there a lot of laughter? I mean, your sense of humour. Where from? I mean,
very hard-working parents. They're sort of employed people, and they've always had done their own thing. I remember them working very, very hard when I was young and not always being around. But when they were around, my dad is very much the kind of intellectual funny.
okay.
And my mum had a background where her father was almost like, he was a very interesting man. He was at times a wrestler, a gold miner, a comedian, a clown. So he was obviously a bit of that in the genes. And then my mum, they used to drag their kids, they had lots of kids and they had no money. So they used to drag the kids like to a town hall and put on a variety show using all the children. And I suppose today it'd probably be illegal, actually.
They'd be arrested.
Probably for, child labour.
But isn't that wonderful?
But everyone
I
sang
mean,
a
what an
song or
upbringing.
did a thing or whatever. So, I mean, it's always been around in our family. My dad was
So they
more
weren't
sort of doing
surprised when
Macbeth
you
and,
stood on stage and you.
No,
Your
when I
dad
said
did
that-
Macbeth.
When he was younger, he played Lady Macbeth, actually, because that's how it was supposed to be done, was the women all played by men. And I think at boarding school, everyone's a bit girly. So they...
Spud.
Yeah, I saw Spud. Just a very normal family, in fact, when I think about it. And just quite a tight... We're still very close, we're not just family, like quite good friends in my family. So it makes no sense that I'm a comedian, actually.
So, I mean, what's it like for them? Because, I mean, you go out there. First of all, I mean, you've been instrumental in putting not comedy on the map, but
Yeah, no, I've done everything.
you've been great. You've done great things, and I'm sure Nick, you'll
It's so
agree
fun.
for
Yes.
comedy
I
in
had
South
lots of
Africa.
fun.
Huge
But so you're out there and you've got a huge following, but you can be very attacking, and as you say,
Yes.
it's this intellectual humor, and people love it. But there are going to be lots of people who are going to criticize you,
Sure.
and there are people. So
Death
how does your
threats.
family respond to something like that?
We
I mean,
don't,
I'd be
we
so.
don't address it. They're
Okay.
two different Johns. The
It's
one
that
goes
pink
to work
elephant.
and the other one goes home. And then I
Okay.
don't have that kind of...
Oh, right.
I don't really social. I'm very antisocial, actually. I socialise with people I work with and invite people to my house. I don't really... You won't find me hitting the clubs or going
You may be
mad.
disappointed to comedy lover out there,
Yes.
follower of John
Comedy lover.
Vlismas. You'll be disappointed. In the words of Rabbi Masinta, who I had a meeting with yesterday,
Oh, my
who's a good
word.
friend of John's, he said, we were talking about Jacob or somebody from the Torah, because he decided to give me a 2-minute
Quick little...
Yeah.
Got to give you
A
thing.
shiur, a quickie.
quickie.
Uh-huh.
And of course he said, you wouldn't think it, but if you look at him and the tattoos, but he's a mensch.
He's
He
a
is
mensch.
And I agree.
Thanks,
Oh.
man. I have a friend who's a rabbi. I do. That's the one friend I've got.
Uh-huh.
He's crazy.
So
I
you
met
can
him on a
count all your
plane.
friends. Yes, why?
I was doing a ridiculous... Were you on that flight? It was a
No.
ridiculous thing. I agreed to do a comedy gig on a plane for Nando's, and they were inaugurating a plane, and then it was a disaster. It was so bad.
Did people
Well,
not
when
know?
the front row is full wide and it goes back 58 rows, it's just
Oh,
not the best
no.
place for a gig. And then you're holding that stupid phone at the hostess. No one can
So
hear
no one
you.
can hear.
Everyone's just looking at me going, you really are just, you'll just do a gig anywhere, sis. And I looked down and there was a man with a big beard and a hat. So I turned to him and I said, well, look, if we do meet God, because we're at a much higher altitude now, I think you better speak to him. And he quite liked that. So
is that how the friendship started?
Yeah, and actually, although my mother's a sort of a Presbyterian or something, and my dad is really not religious, he's my one sort of go-to dude if I've got a spiritual question. It just happens that he's a rabbi or whatever. I mean, I don't think it matters if you really are spiritual. You kind of, or as the Dalai Lama said, be a good Catholic or a good Jew, and I'll see you when I see you. Because the idea is we all get together anyway. So it's quite handy having a rabbi in there.
Well, listen, I know that you met the Dalai Lama, but let's take a break because I know you have to go in a few minutes.
Yes,
but I do still.
Just so you know, I went to a talk. I didn't meet him.
Oh, I thought you met
No,
him.
I don't know who got that story, but I've never met the Dalai Lama.
If I were you, I wouldn't let the truth come out. Just say, just nod and go, yes.
I'm going to tell everyone.
And he was amazing.
Did you meet
a
a
Lama?
Yeah, it's spat in my face. I know it's a cliche, but it did.
That couldn't have been the Dalai Lama. He wouldn't do that.
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is S.V. Prinsloo, and I'm the HOD of IT Integration at Bridwin Preparatory School in Melrose. We started using study apps about 6 months ago and have seen astonishing results. We were quite amazed to see how quickly the kids have been able to use study apps and the benefits it has shown with regards to reinforcing what they've already learned inside the classroom. I would highly recommend study apps for any school.
Studyapps.co.za. Well, welcome back. This is Conversations with Niki. I'm Niki Seberini, and I'm very, very happy to be with you, and thanks for tuning in. I'd like to welcome our syndication partner listeners. That's Eldo's FM. We're here in Joburg and Chai FM, Port Alfred, Kawi FM, West Coast FM in Namibia, 90.3 MC FM in Plet, Neisner FM, Wild Coast FM in East London, and Bay FM in PE. Welcome, welcome. Well, we're talking about laughter, we're talking about comedy, we're talking about a sense of humor, what you find funny, what I find funny. I started off the show saying that I realized a few days ago that in fact I have a terrible sense of humor. I always used to think I had a good sense of humor, that I laughed a lot, and I think I've just become very, very serious. And I came across Professor's blog, DeForce's blog, about when is a joke not a joke, and we started talking about that. So I invited Nik Rabinowitz and John Vlismas into the studio just to talk about comedy, South Africa, and whether South Africans have a sense of humor. And I haven't actually asked that question yet, and I need to ask that question because I don't think it's a simple answer, and I think that we live in a very interesting country, and it's because we have this melting pot of so many different peoples that we have to ask the question, who finds things funny and who does not. So Nick, I mean, you go all over South Africa, you've gone to many countries as well. South Africans, do you think we have a good sense of humor? Can we laugh at ourselves, at the world?
Yeah, I think actually, given what we've been through, we have a great sense of humor, and we do find it in ourselves to laugh at these things. I think also we have a great sensitivity, and political correctness is a huge thing. Often we do a lot of shows in the corporate environment where we do get away with a lot. I mean, people do come and say, this happened to me on Monday. You guys, you say things, we're very politically correct here, but you, how do you do that? How do you? Yeah, I don't know. And it is that thing, it is that tension. You were talking about John Cleese, and he talks about that tension because you're so close to the edge, and there's that nervous chattering, but you can feel it there. And when you learn to ride that wave, the results can be spectacularly awesome, and if you're not careful, can be spectacularly disastrous as well. So it's quite a fine line. It is a fine line.
But I mean, every week you have a show, the week that wasn't. So I mean, you're tracking what's happening in South Africa all the time, and you're very political, and you're going to get instant responses just because of the fantastic technology we have today. So people are going to be tweeting and SMSing and calling in. So you're getting a direct response from people who are listening. Based on that, are people finding what you're saying funny? Because, I mean, what's happening in this country is so serious, and it's not at all funny.
Yes.
And you make light of it, so you get us to laugh, and you take the pressure away. But based on that?
Well, I think there's a large group of people that are waiting to be upset.
Okay.
And that's
Completely.
probably not just South African, but on a certain radio station, certain talk radio stations, that is quite a large group of people. In fact, the South African, I don't mean to be ageist now, but ANN7 have a billboard somewhere on the highway that says,
Yes.
we're not old farts.
Been taken
And
down.
then the old farts complain about that. Because there's actually a society of old farts.
But
called
they're
the
getting
South African-
publicity now. They've got a
Old
billboard
person
which they never
forum.
had before.
And then they acted surprised that they got the complaint. If we didn't have the old persons, then we wouldn't have the letters page in the newspaper. Nobody would phone in to Jenny Chris Williams
No.
to complain about the pavements here in Parktown North.
No, the
None of that
cracks
would
are
happen.
terrible.
So, yes. Have you
Are
seen
you
them?
calling me an old fart?
A beetle could land in there.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So,
Okay, so John, what do you
I
think?
think Nick's absolutely right. You know, we judge the country by the bottlenecks, like so the broadcasters and the corporate account managers who tell us what to say or what we can't say. But if you perform to average South Africans, when I say average, I mean, I don't mean like people are average. I mean just the regular crowd,
Everyday
that's
person.
deregulated.
Yeah.
It's amazing how gutsy and honest and generous South African audiences are compared to other places that I've performed. South African audiences don't laugh; they explode, especially when they see something that they recognise. That's the truth. And we have some hard truths to face. So if you look at someone like Peter Dirk Ace, everything falls away when you talk about sensitivity, because that guy has been a missile. He's fired himself directly at the problems for years and brilliantly. And he's done it with no apology, no surrender. Like, he just goes after presidents. He goes after... And for me, that's proof of life. Like, that shows that we're actually a very vibrant society. We're living through incredible change. It's not, the roads. Well, of course the roads are broken. Like, come on, man, grow up. It's not the end of the world. Like, we're changing human freedom here. Like, why is the road so important? Why is your pavement like, oh, my dog couldn't poo because he was a like, really? This is your life. We've got bigger stuff to deal with. In Kandla, it's 260 million. It's not in the budget of a country. It's not like going to steal food from the mouths of your children, because that's the truth. We talk about billions here and trillions. It's not right, but we can solve it. It doesn't mean that the whole country's gone to the dogs. So, I think we let the nanny element of society, the nanny goats, lead us by the nose. Whereas if you take those controls away, just give us the people, you left with an amazing quality of audience in this country. Very brave, super gutsy.
So you play to audiences all over South Africa, and what I'm hearing is that more South Africans should be able to come and listen to you guys and laugh. But really, it's just a small minority of people who have the opportunity to buy the tickets and have the privilege to be able to come and put their heads back and laugh and be filled with joy.
We're forming a new party called LFF, and it's the Laughter Freedom Fighters, and we're going to force medical aids to prescribe show
What
tickets.
a great idea.
Because they always say laughter is the best medicine, but you can never claim for it on your medical aid. So we are going to bring down the system.
Listen, that's a good idea. Discovery,
have
are you listening right now? No.
Yes.
we do
might be.
Wow.
do charity work as well. I did the Jewish old age home in Cape
See?
Town just
Good.
last
Thank
week.
you. That's
And how were
nice,
they?
man.
How were they as an
Old.
audience? Were they?
Yeah.
Are they all still there? after
Well,
the
it was
death?
an amazingly
Aw.
diverse crowd. Some were asleep, some were awake.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh,
Did
Nick.
they? So they were
What
quite
jokes
cool
did
to
you-
hire you and then
Some
sleep
couldn't,
through it. That's quite amazing that they still sat through it like this. They
Yes.
smile.
Yes, yes. I mean, I had amazing. There was a woman of 104. We discussed. She was 104. Yes.
Did
We
she
discussed-
laugh, Nick? Was she
we discussed
enjoying
the
your
fact she was born
humour?
in 1909, which I had recently researched and discovered that Archduke Ferdinand,
Oh my word.
4 years prior to whatever, when the First World War started in
He was shot.
1914, he was actually having an affair with Kaiser Wilhelm's cousin,
Oops.
Gunther. And at that time,
Wow.
Feigelers weren't really acceptable in that part of Europe. So that's actually what led to it.
That's
wasn't
what led to the war.
Yeah.
It's a homophobic attack.
A homophobic attack.
No
and
way.
she didn't know that, and I could tell a 104-year-old something about her heritage.
I can teach you something,
Yes.
lady. See, there are cool old people, man, and that's my thing. It's like
Oh.
you get those fantastic old people who just want to have fun.
Listen, I want you to go and get together the top South African comedians and invite all South Africans
The
to
top
come
two of the
along.
four, of the
the
three,
top
of
two
the
of the
100 of them half.
I'll never live
Trevor's
that
not
one
available,
down.
sorry.
Trevor's not.
And
He's now an export.
I think we've just got to reach more people. You got to get more people laughing. We need more laughter, guys.
Yes, well, we do it, and we just did a big show called Mass Hysteria, which is for everyone,
Okay.
and that was quite good.
So when else are you going to be performing? So people listening now,
You've got a
all
big show
over
coming
South
up.
Africa can come.
I've got a
And
show in Cape
and-
Town
yes.
from the end of November
Mhm.
till January.
what's it called?
It's called Stand Up. It's not that creative really, but it's inspired by Oscar.
Fantastic.
And yeah.
November in Cape
26th
Town.
of November in Cape
Okay.
Town, yeah.
Fantastic. Anything before then?
Well, I was hoping to. We do shows in some of the syndication areas
Right.
from time to time.
Oh, well,
Yes.
do let us know.
In the footprint of your very, very large foot, Nikki.
My large foot.
It's a big
It's
size
wonderful
foot.
that you have such a diverse range. There's Eldos and there's Chai FM,
Mm-hmm.
and
Wow.
there are many coloured people converting to the faith. We've had this discussion.
We've had
before.
this discussion.
Especially in Cape Town. There's a move to get their land back in Sea Point. And so coloured people will convert. A friend of mine did it. Didn't get circumcised though, because that's actually if
Really?
you want to do it properly, you have to
You've
get,
got a report for.
yeah. But he was like, no, my wife said I'm like a Jew with more to chew, so I want to stay that way.
I like that.
John, and you?
I don't know what I'm doing. I
You just
think
had
I'm-
mass hysteria.
Yeah, we did that, and I think I don't know what else I'm doing now. I've just about to decide what's going to happen in the next few months. So I don't actually have a thing
all
to
right.
plug.
It's a busy time though for all of you guys.
Well, what I want to
It
say
is a
is,
busy
well,
time.
let me just say that
Corporate,
John has become a producer of spectacular, beautiful shows, and he's raising the bar. And there have been many recently. We've had Bitches,
Yeah.
we've had Mass Hysteria, we've had a few other individual
Yes,
shows. Not to mention the comedy awards, which he has single-handedly created and put together.
Yes, he
and
has.
is amazing. Amazing thing for our industry. So let me just
Well,
beat
thanks,
his
man.
drum.
No, no,
'cause he's
I'm
so
with
humble.
you.
Look at him. He's
I'm
the professor
with
of
you.
comedy.
I'm with
Basically,
you.
I'm going to have a cup of coffee next, and then we'll see.
You'll plan.
There are
For
things coming
tomorrow.
though. I had a very good meeting yesterday with a TV channel, and there are great things
Oh,
coming.
okay. So you'll keep us
We just got to
updated.
get the confirmations, and then. But there is a Comics Choice Awards showcase where a lot of the nominees and the winners will be performing at the Lyric Theatre in October as well. I don't know what the exact date is.
All right,
but
well,
it's
you'll
called the
keep me
Comics Choice
updated.
Awards showcase, and the tickets are available at CompuTicket as we speak.
Fantastic.
And that's cool
Okay.
because all the young categories get to do 7 minutes in the biggest room they've generally ever performed in, and we give them lots of lights and sound, and it's a very nice showcase.
Lovely
for them.
for them.
So I would say if you want to see what the future of stand-up looks like, head
Come
over
along.
to the Lyric.
And tickets available.
CompuTicket.
CompuTicket, October.
Comics Choice Awards showcase.
Future of
Guys,
stand-up.
thank you,
The
thank
future
you.
of stand-up paddling as well, which is what we should get
We
into.
really
Yeah.
have to. Those boards are so expensive, though. They're
Well,
like
you know, we
12
could set up
grand
a
board.
Take a
benevolent
video.
Vlismas Rabinowitz surfing
Maybe we do a
benevolent
fundraiser
trust
with
fund.
old Mazinta. Let's ask
There we
him
go.
to buy comedians stand-up
Rabbi
boards.
walks on water.
Guys, thank you for coming into the
Thanks for
studio.
having us.
It was so great. Thank you, thank
Cheers,
you.
cheers.
John Vlismas, Nik Rabinowitz here in the studios. Conversations with Niki. Just wonderful to have them. So we look at the laughter and the light and, of course, the seriousness behind it. I just want more and more South Africans to have access to comedy. I want more South Africans to laugh. So if you want more laughter and perhaps, because it's outward, going and watching a comedian, it's an outward wonderful experience. But we're now going to be focusing on finding laughter from within. It's finding that joy from within. How? Where? I have invited a laughter coach into the studio, and she's going to be telling us how to do it. Now, Conversations with Niki is sponsored by Study Apps, and Study Apps is a fantastic app that you can download onto your iPad or onto your tablet, and it can help you, it can help your kids or whoever with their homework and with studying, because studies have shown that students retain 50% more of the information that they've learned if they take practice tests while learning. And Study Apps provides all the practice tests any student could ask for in an interactive and stimulating way. So it's about studying smarter, not harder, with studyapps.co.za. Now listen, if you have just joined us, welcome. It's fantastic to be with you. I'm Niki Seberini. This is Conversations with Niki. We've just been talking about comedy in South Africa, but I think it goes a lot deeper, because really I don't say it lightly when I say that people are not laughing enough. People aren't finding enough joy in life. And there is so much joy out there, but we're stressed and there's a lot happening. And sometimes the stress just gets us down and we don't sit, put our heads back and laugh. So that's why I decided to invite Laughter Coach Shareen Richter into the studio. She is known as the Laughter she's known as the Laughter Professor, and she's going to be telling us about how to find that inner joy and that inner laughter. So, Shareen, welcome.
Hi, Nikki. Well,
how are you?
Fine, great. Trying to laugh as much as I can.
But you know, I started the show saying that I really do feel like I've lost my sense of humor. I mean, I used to laugh so much more. And now when my kids do something which I, as a mother, could see as naughty because it's inconvenient, because maybe they're throwing things at one another or it's a water pistol fight, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, it's bad behavior, instead of looking at the joy of two young children interacting, laughing, being free, being imaginative. I don't see that, you see. As a mother, I'm frustrated. So being able to look at them and laugh and connect with them on that level, it's not there. And is this normal, Shareen? I mean, are you finding that more and more people are losing that inner joy, that laughter?
Nikki. You know, I made a joke about trying to laugh more, but the truth is people don't really laugh very much. And, you know, I know you had Nick and John in, and they're amazing, and I was giggling on the side, and they really got me to laugh. But the truth is that we've conditioned ourselves as a society not to laugh, and we've conditioned ourselves that if we laugh, people will think we're stupid and silly and won't take us seriously. And as children, they say children laugh between 300 and 400 times a day. And children laugh with their bodies. They just laugh. They run and they laugh. They fall and they laugh. I've got an 8-year-old, and he would always do knock-knock jokes, and he's laughing before he even gets to the punchline. And I'm thinking, oh, you know, I can't even see the humor in that, unfortunately. But that's the truth. We've conditioned ourselves to not laugh, and we've got to learn from our children and condition ourselves back into the space of laughter being a gift, laughter being a mechanism to de-stress, laughter being a mechanism that connects us with one another and opens our hearts. So we've got to get back into that place.
But isn't laughter a response to something? So if I see something funny, I'm going to laugh. If I hear something funny, it's a response. How can I activate an involuntary response?
So it is a response to something if you hear something funny. And the reason why most of us don't laugh very much anymore is because you turn on the news and you listen to the radio. How much funny stuff is there? Not very much. You watch CNN at the moment or any of these overseas channels, it can scare the living daylights out of you what's going on in the rest of the world. And then you look at what's going on locally with the striking and everything else, and there's just not much fun. There's not much to laugh at. So the truth is that as human beings, we need it as much as we need air. That we need laughter as much as we need love, as we need air to breathe, and we don't do it anymore. And that's why the World Health Organization has said that by 2020, depression is going to be the #1 disease in the world. Because without laughter, we are getting depressed. We're not coping with our stress. Laughter, interestingly, has the ability to 100% reverse the effects of stress on our body. So yes, it's an involuntary thing, but we can learn to use it as a de-stress tool in the same way they would go to gym.
Okay, so I'm hoping that our listeners are going to get a few tips from you on how to do it. Because, I mean, I was just looking up laughter, and you know, laughter relaxes the body. I mean, you're going to tell me all of this, but they say here, a good hearty laugh relieves physical tension and stress, which is what you were saying, leaving your muscles relaxed for up to 45 minutes after that. It boosts the immune system. It releases all the endorphins and the hormones. So we should be doing more of it.
We absolutely should be.
So how did you come across this gem? I mean, you've got the most beautiful smile. I wish that we had a camera so people could see how gorgeous your smile is. So have you, I mean, were you just always an upbeat, happy person who could laugh easily?
I've always been a positive person. I find it quite hard to laugh myself. So I do laugh at jokes, but I'm quite a serious person by nature. I'm quite a perfectionist, and was very stressed. And I actually saw laughter coaching, which it's called laughter yoga around the world, in 2008 on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And her makeup artist did a session, he did a class, and he was at a very low point in his life. And when she interviewed him afterwards and said, "How did you feel?" He said, "I felt the stress lift off my body, it lifted off my soul." And sitting there watching that, and a lot of the work that I did was in HR, I thought, oh my goodness, I need some of that. I need that for me. I need it for the people that work for me. I need some of that. And at that stage, there was nothing available in South Africa. But I then managed a year later to find somebody who was here from overseas who trained me, and I then went overseas and did train. It was developed by a medical doctor, so it is based on proper scientific grounding. It is now in over 70 countries around the world. And this should be done daily. So in the same way that you do gym and that's exercise for your physical body, you should be laughing every single day for at least 5 minutes.
So you mean it's something that we should introduce like an exercise?
Exactly.
What is it? Laughter therapy, laughter yoga,
Laughter coaching. I call it laughter coaching. And it's something that you should do every morning, because when you start your day and you feel awesome, your whole day looks different. The way you interact with people is different. Your energy levels are different. The way you feel about yourself is different. Your self-esteem is different. And so the truth is, if all of us could start our day with a 5-minute laugh, our days would look different and our world would look different.
Sounds fantastic. I just want to know how. So you went to the source. You went to India and you went to the doctor.
Did.
So what happened? Was there a moment were there aha moments for you? Did you come back to South Africa and feel like something had shifted? And if so, how long did that last?
Well, the first time I did my first class, which was here in South Africa, I walked out feeling like I was on drugs. And thought, oh my goodness, I've just discovered the most powerful thing on the planet.
Okay.
Because I literally felt like I was high. And that feeling lasted for 3 days. And because
physiologically you've got all these hormones.
Physiologically, what happens is your brain is oxygenated, your organs get like an internal massage or a jog. They get oxygen, so there's places in your body that gets oxygen that haven't had for a very long time. Your brain releases all your feel-good chemicals like dopamine, endorphins, opiates, which is a chemical cousin to the drug opium, and serotonin, which is in most antidepressants. So that's why you feel physically why. And you mentioned something about stress. Well, one bout of stress, one stressful event can depress your immune system for up to 6 hours. But one bout of a healthy belly laugh can completely reverse that. So laughter is actually a mechanism given to human beings to counter stress. And that's why we're so stressed, because if you look at what's happened to laughter in the last 100 years, the amount of laughter that we do as a nation, as a race, as human beings, has decreased rapidly. And with that, depression and stress-related illnesses have increased as rapidly.
Well, as I was saying to John and to Nick, having the privilege to be able to buy a ticket and go to a comedy club and watch a comedian that you enjoy, so that humor resonates with you, and being able to laugh is just fabulous, because you walk out and you feel high and you feel relaxed and you feel all of those things. But not many people have access to that, and it's short-lived.
Very short-lived.
So and it's external.
Yes.
Okay. So that's why we want more and more people to know the secret of being able to get those feelings and being able to do it for themselves.
Well, every single human being is born with the gift of laughter. So we all have the ability, and it's the one thing, very much like breathing, that you don't have to be taught. We as human beings have to be taught how to walk. You know, if you look at a baby, as they start, they crawl first, then they stand, and they take one step and they fall. They take another step and they fall. And you actually have to help a baby to learn how to take 1 step, 2-step balance. Laughter, we do not have to be taught.
Giggle a baby and the baby
At
laughs.
2 or 3 months, a baby will giggle, and studies have shown that babies that come from abused homes still giggle. Babies, they've done studies from starving Somalia, still laugh, because it is as much a part of the human being as breathing. But we've just, think of how many times as a mom you say to your kids, stop laughing, stop being silly, stop being stupid, stop it.
Yes.
And so we can't blame our kids or ourselves, because that's what society kind of said, that to be taken seriously, you have to be serious. And really, we are suffering, and we need to reverse that.
Oh, that is so sad.
Yes.
So how do we do it?
Well, we fake it next, because the truth
Fake it till we make it?
Fake it till we make it. That is our motto in laughter coaching. Because as you say, going to a comedian is a once-off. And if you heard their amazingly funny jokes, after the 5th time, they're not so funny anymore. After the 6th time, they're not so funny. So how do we have a tool that we can laugh at hysterically every single day? Well, it definitely wouldn't be about jokes or comedy, because then it wouldn't be sustainable. So what science has proven is that the brain can't tell the difference between real and simulated laughter.
Okay.
So whether you're laughing from a funny joke or you're laughing because you're faking it, as intelligent as our brain is, it cannot differentiate.
Are you telling me that it will still release
It
the
still
hormones in the
releases,
same way?
absolutely.
Okay.
So the secret to feeling good and releasing your stress is we use childlike playful activities. We fake the laughter. We laugh as hard and as loud as we can. And in doing so, you almost have to visualize it's like taking a car key, or it's like taking a key to a pharmacy of these chemicals that as you do it, it unlocks this pharmacy that floods your body and you instantly feel amazing. It's not, well, try this and let me know how you feel in 2 weeks' time. Try this and immediately you feel awesome.
But I'd feel so silly.
You do feel
Pretending
silly.
to laugh.
You do
Do
feel
you?
silly.
Okay.
But I feel silly on a treadmill. So it doesn't mean I shouldn't do it. Doesn't mean it doesn't have great benefits. If you put me in a high energy aerobic class, I'm going to feel even more than silly.
It's
But
just
it
more
doesn't
acceptable,
mean-
isn't it?
Well,
Because we're
yes,
used to seeing
because we're
it.
used to it. So
Ah.
we need to change that conditioning, and we need to say, look, it's free, so anyone can do it. You said, how do we appeal to the masses? Well, you can laugh anywhere. You don't need to pay money to be able to do it. You can do it in a township. You can do it in a sports field. You can do it at your house. You can do it at work. You can do it in the car. It's not restricted to where you are. You don't need to have membership to go to a gym or belong to a club to do this. You don't have to shower afterwards. You can go straight to work when you're finished laughing. Although it can work up quite a sweat, and Stanford University has proven that 2 minutes of a hearty belly laugh has the same cardiovascular effect as 10 minutes on an exercise bike. So that's pretty awesome.
Nick is back.
Of course you can.
Okay, we're going to do
Are we
it,
gonna-
Nick.
We're going to do it now.
Yeah,
So,
I'm
Nick,
ready.
We're going to get to have the honor of your best laugh now, because you're always making everyone else laugh.
I did this like 10 years ago once down the Orange River, but I've forgotten.
I'm surprised
You did
went
it down the
screaming
Orange
down
River.
Because, I meant to say this earlier, but as comedians, we don't get to laugh much.
Ah, okay.
Because we've heard our own jokes,
Yes.
and mostly we don't see other comedians, and if we do, sometimes we don't want them to get more laughs. So you end up being stressed, and so we also need
so
laughter
you need
therapy.
to laugh too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I'm
and
ready.
you can laugh along as a listener as well if you're out there,
Absolutely.
and you're probably listening on your own, so it's fine. You won't be too embarrassed.
Or if you're in your car,
Your
you
car.
can do this as well.
Yeah.
Except don't use your real cell phone. I was once on another radio station, and someone who was doing this with us got pulled over by the Metro Police, and
And
really
that's no
had to
laughing
explain
matter.
their way around pretending to laugh on a
Yes.
pretend phone call.
Okay, so, okay, so are you going to try Solomon?
Solomon's
Solomon's
Solomon's going to
Yeah.
also.
Gotta try,
Okay.
yes.
All right,
And
we're
Nikki?
ready. I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm
Okay.
ready. I'm
Okay,
ready.
so remember, to the listeners who are doing it as well, the whole concept is we fake it. We laugh as loud as we can. We laugh as hard as we can. And usually because of the fun and silliness of what we're doing, real laughter will follow. But remembering, if it doesn't, that's okay. The brain still releases all these chemicals. So we're going to just pretend that we're having a very funny conversation on our cell phone. And we're going to take our hands to our ears and pretend that our cell phones are there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to laugh as hard and as loud as we can, pretending that there's a crazy person on the other side of the phone and they've just told us something absolutely hysterical. So you can slap your knee, you can make that, crazy finger to your head if you're with other people, and just laugh as much as loud as you can. So ready?
Let's go.
Ready on the count of 3.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. So that was.
Is it as
really-
simple as that?
It's as simple as that.
I actually feel amazing from that.
You do feel amazing.
How do you feel, Nick?
I felt like I was faking it, but I was faking it. But I feel like if I'd gone on, then I know that from before.
Well,
if you
we've
carry
got all
on,
beady eyes from the room
you
next
carry
door,
on,
and
then
people
it's-
smiling and looking at us.
yeah, they're smiling as well.
They will come to see what on earth is going on in there.
I always think of the clean green ad. Do you remember clean green? That starts you.
Oh.
Yeah. And then you do a snort to get other people going as well. That also works.
So how long should we be doing this
For
for?
at least 5 minutes.
And you imagine that someone has said something funny to you.
Yes.
And you laugh.
And you can do anything.
And that's all you have to do.
So you can even Google Skype laughter chain. It has over 10 million hits. And that is really somebody watching a baby laugh, and then they laugh, and someone watching them laugh. And as you say, there's a guy on there that's been voted as the guy with the funniest laugh in the world. And he's so funny because when he laughs, he kind of, you listen to nuances. So he goes, no, no, no. And he's this old man with a big tummy that bounces up and down. And you can just wet yourself watching. So I would recommend, I'd recommend actually going online and watching.
Okay, so
Skype
what's it called?
Chain.
Laughter?
Skype laughter chain.
Skype.
Skype, as in Skype. Skype.
Okay, are you going to look that up, Nick?
Skype laughter chain.
definitely.
Skype laughter.
really
I want to
funny.
laugh more. And
My
I'm
wife needs to
committing.
laugh
I'm
more as well.
committing myself to laugh. Does she?
Yeah,
I
she
think that's what my
definitely
husband
does.
says about me as
Definitely
well.
If you
I
go
think you
onto
need to
my
go laughter coaching.
website, I give away 25 free laughter exercises. So there's a whole host of them. There's handshake laughter, greeting laughter, where you just take someone's hand, look them in the eye. To take my hand, Nick, look
Yeah.
me in the eye, and you just go.
I did that the other day when I met
You
the
don't say a
president.
word.
Except, and then he went.
That's funny. What's your website address?
It's www.laughtercoaching, one word, .co.za.
Listen, I've got to tell you, I feel lighter. I do.
Great.
I do feel that the endorphins went rushing. I do feel. Solomon, do you also?
Yeah, I feel light and ridiculous at the same time.
Light and ridiculous at the same time.
Yes.
I'm going to commit to laughing more. I
I
want
will
to
give you
laugh
some
more. I really
exercises.
do.
That's
Okay.
fabulous.
many
And
times
share
a
it
day?
with your
Are
family.
you
Once, no,
doing
only
this?
once. Don't push
Once a
it.
day?
Once a day. Every
Okay,
morning
you
I'll
commit to
start
that.
off. Are you committing?
Yes.
And your
Great.
wife, your
Yes.
wife.
Yes, she's
We're
committed.
gonna.
It'll be good for
I'm gonna
marriage.
follow up on this. eh?
Okay.
Okay.
Guys, thank you. Nick,
Thank
thanks
you.
for coming back in. Shareen, the
Uninvited.
laughter
Thank you,
professor,
Nikki.
thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
And it's been great. And I hope that you are going to find a way of finding that joy and that laughter within, because life is great. Look out the window and be grateful. Listen, I've so enjoyed being with you. I hope you're going to tune in next week again. Conversations with Nikki. If you missed part of the show will be podcast. Just visit my website, conversationswithnikki.co.za. Till next week. Goodbye. Conversations with Nikki was brought to you by studyapps.co.za, South Africa's leading education app for tablets.